Hi, Gareth Hosking here, and welcome to Shopper Marketing Experts. Today I'm excited to introduce our latest webcast series highlighting 5 keys to thriving in a disruptive retail environment. We have broken these 5 keys into a 4-part video series, all of which you can get at Shopper Marketing Experts, where we also have full end-to-end shopper-focused, bite-sized learning content for you to stay at the competitive edge in all your marketing efforts. As always, I have with me one of our resident experts, Toby Desforges, and a special guest from the US, who we were fortunate enough to catch up with while he was in the UK, and that is Patrick Fitzmaurice from Caterpillar Farm Inc. In this third video of our 4-part video series, we'll have a look at what we previously covered, followed by Toby and Patrick discussing channel prioritization.
When I say understand the target shopper, I am not excluding consumers or retailers. And by the way, guys, I'm not asking you to create a completely different view of the world where one persona is different to another. What I want you to recognize when I'm talking about understanding the target shopper is that whatever happens, there is an individual who makes the decision to purchase a product. And that is not the person who writes down the shopping list. It's the person who picks the product up, puts it in their cart, and pays for it, whether that's online or offline, right? That person has a set of behaviors which are different to the behaviors of using a product. And it's that person whose behavior we need to influence, I believe, in order to drive growth in the long term.
Am I marketing to every shopper? Probably not. Who do I choose to market to? Where might that shopper choose to shop more often than others? How might I start anchoring in that type of strategic thought before I go about the act of creating activations to go capture and influence them? A shopper has a need for something in their life. They have a want or a need. Now they have to fulfill that need. The way I like to think about it and the way I've taught it is they are now in shopper mode. Need in my life. I have a good and service that I want. Now I'm in shopper mode. So what am I going to go do? If this is now a convenience-driven motivation, I'm just going to go to the closest place that I find acceptable and get that. If it's not a convenience-driven motivation, I may put it on a list and go get it later. So all of that behavioral stuff drives us to thinking around what is the role of the channel choice that a shopper may have.
This is about choosing places where you can have an influence over somebody's behavior rather than choosing places that they just go to buy stuff. Right. So get those definitions really clear in your mind. And then as you've started to say, as a third point, is understand the roles that those places are playing. Are they places where somebody is going to change their shopping behavior? Is it a place where you can engage with them? What is it that they're absolutely doing for you?
There would be some that would argue I have to be everywhere because omni-channel means a shopper can purchase wherever they want. And if you're a brand manufacturer thinking that that's your path to success, you will run out of resources very quickly. You have to be a brand manufacturer that's choosing your battle spaces. And where do I choose to win to unlock more growth for my company than I would if I went other places?
So with this absolute clarity of channel definitions, channel roles, the next point is prioritization, because marketers do exist in an omni-channel world. We are now in a world where omni-channel is a thing that we talk about. But the absolute reality is, as you pointed out, is nobody has the resources to be everywhere. And let's be truthful to this, right? It is often thought of to be ridiculous when you sit down in a sales meeting and a brand marketer comes in and they say to you guys, we want to distribute this brand and all its variants in every outlet in this market. And people say, well, that's ridiculous. There's 13 variants. The smallest shelves are only 40 centimeters. There's no room to do that. We already know that is a ridiculous assertion. So therefore, to assert that we need to have our brand executed everywhere in every place that it could be is equally ridiculous. And were we to do that, we would be violating the fundamental rule of competition, which is to amass your resources where you're going to get the best strategic leverage. That is what Napoleon said.
Exactly.
More than 200 years ago now. And you know what? It worked for him.
And part of the disruption, to kind of go back to that now, which is fascinating to me, and having been able to run a number of share groups in the space over the past couple of years, you get to hear really smart people struggling with these issues. And if you kind of think about the benefit of adding e-commerce to your kind of assortment mix, that's where you can get those products that might have more niche appeal, that don't deserve scale treatment in a brick and mortar store, and fine, offer them in a more digital shelf environment to be able to deliver on that consumer shopper need. We're not removing a product. People want more variety. You know, the whole trend for most of the big macro consumer trends, the problem is traditional retail can't fulfill all of those until you have a consumer strategy to deliver against variety, paired with a shopper strategy that says, where might different things deliver against consumers' variety needs? Some of it may not be in physical store assortment. Some of it may be in digital store assortment, but we're still kind of adapting the model of fulfilling goods and services across new experiences.
I totally agree with you, because it starts with this understanding that we have an individual whose purchase behavior we want to change. That individual is going to interface in a number of different retail environments. Some of them are online, some of them are offline, some of them are on the phone, some of them are elsewhere, right? They're going to interface with all of those ones. We need to understand the roles that they play, and then we need to prioritize what we're going to do. And it may well be that we have to interface with them a number of times through those decisions that they're making. And I hesitate to say path to purchase because I hate that term, but that's not to say I'm against path to purchase as a pure idea. But you know, the point is that because we're constantly dipping in and out of what you call the shopper mode, we're constantly exposed to retail messaging. You know, it may well be that we see something in one environment, incidental to our mission at that time, which heavily influences what we do in another environment at some time later. And understanding that from the individual's point of view, understanding how that person weaves his or her way through those decisions to come to a final point is incredibly important. But that doesn't mean be everywhere.
Right. I love the term you use, prioritization, right? So one way to think about it is, let's just view the world from a shopper perspective. Shoppers go through the act of shopping, call it path to purchase, call it shopper mode, in a variety of different ways. And it could be for the same product category, just depending upon their current shopper needs.
Absolutely.
And so when you kind of think about path to purchase, and you literally start to try to map them out, one person described to me years ago, it's a big bowl of spaghetti, right? Any individual at any given point in time is going through a different journey to kind of go get that. So as a marketer, I sit there and I look at it and say, I can't market to a bowl of spaghetti.
No.
So what do? I need to put some structure on the aggregate path to purchases. So I need to kind of put some structure on what are the preponderance of things that are happening for most of the shopper targets that I'm going after. Now I have clusters of possible growth that I go after. Now I can make choices. But it goes back to what we mentioned earlier, and we kind of blew through pretty fast. The role of shopper-centric thinking, not as a tactical activation lever, but as a strategic way to make choices about going after growth. And, you know, strategy is nothing but making a conscious choice to go here and not go here.
Absolutely.
Right. So business strategy is just that.
There are very, very few effective business strategies that call for being everywhere.
There are, I don't know if we could name one. We could pause and think.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay, let's move on.
No, I don't want to. So this spaghetti analogy is great, because I do think of, you know, drawing out these specific strands, and the more specific one becomes about the target shopper that we're doing, the far easier it is to identify these strands. I think it's probably worth pausing a little bit and talking about prioritization of channels, because I think there are some important things here. You know, the traditional way of looking at prioritization, frankly, would mean that we never put any money anywhere but at Walmart, because guess what? They've got so many shoppers. And I think the most important thing, I think, for people to take away in this is that this is about understanding those spaces where you can influence your target shoppers. Those are your priorities, and influence is not just about what happens now in that present point, but how that might change somebody's perception later on. And if you guys do get the chance to read our book, The Shopper Marketing Revolution, or to access some of the content on shopper marketing experts, what you'll see is a number of cases where we've said, wow, it's really interesting that an individual has been influenced in this retail space in order to drive a long-term behavior in a totally different retail space.